From the cherished moments to the carefully curated treasures, here, Alissa Ruxin invites us into a fusion of her personal journey and the enchanting world of design.
The design concept for this Kigali getaway is to create an atmosphere of indulgent relaxation from the moment guests arrive, while infusing every corner with the distinct personality and style of Alissa Ruxin. Alissa supports and collaborates with local artisans. Alongside the interior designer, she has sourced major conversational pieces and unusual pairs that create complementary flow between the spaces, enhancing the design.
Alissa, thank you so much, for inviting us into this design journey that you have right here. How do you feel about this place, and what do guests always feel immediately they come in here?
I think most guests are so surprised when they walk in because from the road you really can't tell what you're about to discover. And I think that's what we went for with the architecture. It's a little bit hidden oasis in the middle of Kigali, in the middle of this major city, but you really don't feel the oasis until you walk in. And everybody comments that it's just so much more beautiful than they imagined. Even when they check our website and pictures that we've taken in the past, they really feel something different when they walk in.
Yeah. Something different from what they've seen, because it's the joys in the experience. It's actually not in the scene. What has inspired the design ideas that you have here?
Well, if you look around even this room, we have really gone for a lot of made in Rwanda, local organic feel. So even the walls are made out of volcanic stone that we harvested from Rwanda, from the volcanic region of the country. Every single stone was hand carved, which is incredible. And then even if you look around, it's all wood, natural fibers. So we went for a very natural feel so that it's almost like nature is coming indoors. It's very much of an indoor-outdoor, almost like an eco-resort in the city. So that's what we were going for, is as much as possible not importing and using local materials and local technicians to build property.
Exactly. And how does the interior design speak to the environment, to the country rather?
I think, well, there is a contemporary feel here, so we did go for that look and feel. But we've really tried to highlight made in Rwanda features. So you'll look around, all the lamps are custom made by Rwandan artisans, even the pillows here on the sofas. This takes after the Imigongo traditional artwork of Rwanda, made by a local artisan group. So around the property, while the structure is simple and contemporary, the features, the way we've decorated the property, we're trying to embrace what is beautiful about the culture. And trying to support as many artisans as we can.
That's good. How does the interior design, enhance the overall guest experience?
Well, I think, like I said originally, when you walk in, you relax immediately. You feel like you're in a haven, in a sanctuary in the middle of the city. So immediately it provides a feeling of luxury, exclusivity, peacefulness. And that is really what we were going for. And in fact, we also have a large wellness center. We have a spa, gym, and yoga deck. So this is a big part of what we do here. Not just the beautiful pool that you see when you walk in, but we have all these other wellness features. So this is a big part of the culture, the feel of the retreat. Yes, we have great food too and beautiful rooms, but it's more about coming to explore Rwanda, having this as a home base to enjoy the culture and experiences in a really relaxing, beautiful setting.
How do you think the interior designer, has interpreted the brand of the retreat, in this design that we have here?
I think I really enjoyed working with my interior designer. She really understood that we wanted to keep things authentic and local as much as possible. She understood that we wanted to set ourselves apart from larger corporate hotels. We are a boutique family-owned property. So she really did a great job of keeping it simple, keeping it elegant, and also incorporating, as I said, working with as many of local community members as we could. So even around the property, you'll see, this was not just the interior designer, but a joint effort finding painters and photographers that we could work with to accent the walls and really provide a feel, a sense of place. Because I think sometimes in hotels you lose a sense of place.
Yeah.
And when you come here, you feel we're in Rwanda.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for inviting us into this extraordinary gem. We really enjoyed staying here. You know, our night here was amazing. It just has everything, you know, everything that someone who is coming to explore, a traveler, a tourist trap needs. This is where to be. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Everything is designed, but few things are designed very well. Now, this is how Nikki Macdonald has turned this retreat into a natural projection of the soul.
The simplicity of design by Nikki Macdonald makes the retreat a clear example on space and style. A minimalist at heart, but portrays meticulous attention to class.
Nikki, I can tell you that you've built a heaven indeed here in Rwanda. How do you feel about this build?
Well, Chidi, I think every project's different, and every project you put a little piece of yourself into. Some projects you might be there right from the beginning. Some projects you come in a little bit later. Some projects you even come in at the end. But I enjoyed spending time on this project. I loved working with the client. I loved their ideas. I loved their whole ethos of what they wanted to create, and I loved it.
Tell me about what inspired the color palettes that you've used here, because it's very distinct.
Well, I think, I'm sure you can kind of pick up everything's on a very neutral palette, very sort of natural textures, natural colors, very much down my lane, very neutral, little pops of black here and there. Pretty much the client had a good idea from the start, very high-end lodge sort of look and feel. We went with it, we made use of local artisans, lots of natural textures, lots of natural colors.
I mean, and what would you say, what ambience would you say that this color palette has created in the environment?
Well, it's called a retreat. When you think of the retreat, you think you're going to go somewhere, you're going to relax, it's calming, you know, it puts you in a real sort of relaxation kind of mood. And we do that best outdoors with natural color palette. That's what it brings. It brings that whole calmness, you know, very neutral colors. We've got little pops of color here and there, but nothing that's going to sort of scream for your attention.
Yeah. You know, you've actually infused a lot of Rwandan influences inside this build. Tell me what areas where I'll easily see it.
Oh, definitely in the local wood, your local artwork, the light fittings. There's quite a few light fittings in the wine lounge, etc., that have local artisans' work hanging up. Yeah.
You know, that's very good. It means that when in Rwanda, you're actually in Rwanda. Now tell me about the layout and, you know, the flow in the interior.
Well, the first most important thing when you're starting with any project is the space planning. Before you even think about what it's going to look like, or how it's going to be pretty or not pretty, or this color or that color, it has to work. It has to function. Things need to be where they need to be in order for you to make use of the space before you can really enjoy and appreciate it.
Yeah. The African statement here is very bold. You know, tell me how you were able to achieve that.
Well, I mean, luckily the client has a really good eye. She's also very involved with the community. As you know, I lived here, so I was also very aware of who was available. We collaborated a lot with some local businesses and made use of them and made use of their products, and you showcased what they're able to sort of create.
Yeah, I'm sure that fixtures and furniture was also a very important thing to, you know, to ensure that you achieved mostly. But tell me about it. How were you able to think about that and actually achieve what we have here?
Well, obviously there's a certain amount of things that we could sort of source locally. There are other things that might not quite be up at the standard that we required. So obviously I sourced a lot of stuff from back home in South Africa. You can see in some of the coffee tables, the sofas, those sort of furniture pieces. When I was looking for it, I was obviously looking for lots of natural textures, the right color tone, and luckily I have a lot of great suppliers back in SA, and they were able to I was able to work with them, I was able to show the client, and we merged the two in a harmonious way.
Yeah. You know, how were you able to merge the current design trends that we have right now and also meeting a timeless design that in the next 20 years the clients can actually be like, oh yeah, this is still in vogue? How were you able to achieve that?
Well, I think mostly when I design, I don't always like to follow what's happening right now this month. I like to stick with the classics. I like to stick with neutral palettes. That way they never really, you don't tire of natural color tones or natural palettes. You know, you decide to paint your room today bright red, maybe next week you're like, oh, maybe it should be bright purple. And I don't have a problem with color. I love it. I personally find I'm a lot more drawn to natural tones.
Oh, okay.
And I think with natural colors, it doesn't go out of fashion.
Yeah. So you'd actually say that this is screaming Nikki.
100%.
I know that for sure. I mean, with all the timeless pieces that you've put into this, and with all the, you know, amazing designs that you've crafted, I'm sure there were a lot of challenges. Can you take me into that a little?
Well, I think there's always a challenge when you're trying to make use of some local stuff that might not quite be finished in the way that you like. But there are ways that you can make use of things in a way that could make it last longer. So using the local wood, we then obviously had to bring in perhaps the varnish or whatever the sealants from somewhere else, getting good craftsmen to create it in a way that it's going to last a little bit longer. It's construction methods, those sort of things.
Yeah.
In terms of difficulties, I really wouldn't say, I think we really just didn't run into any major problems, it was a nice and it was a good project to work on. No issues.
Well, I think you did so well. We doff our hats for you. You've done amazing. You've created indeed a heaven and a retreat that, you know, every traveler would definitely want to enjoy. Thank you so much for chatting with me.
Oh, thank you, Chidi. Thank you for having me, and hope to see you soon.
Rwanda was a hit, and I can't wait to be back. Next, we get to meet Heather Moore, who translates African heritage into creative designs. Let's see it.
Whether crafted by hand or digitally printed, Heather's designs provide her every opportunity to showcase heritage with a touch of style.
Heather, thank you so much for inviting me over. What a great place you've got here. But before we go into the main conversation, what is your growth process, and tell us more about yourself?
Well, I'm a textile designer. I'm a self-taught textile designer, so everything I know I've figured out as I go along. And about 15 years ago, I started exploring the internet, made a blog, got an Etsy shop, and started experimenting with screen printing. And people started buying my things. And the more they bought them, the more I made. And eventually I found that I had a business. We still produce everything here in Cape Town. Everything's designed by me, made by our small team here in our studio. And we send it all over the world to people who shop online, to wholesale other shops all over the world. Yeah, that's what we do.
So what's the process of designing your prototype?
So what I do is I design and create patterned textiles, screen printed. For deciding on which one makes the cut is quite a difficult process because I design a lot of patterns. I have so many ideas, but of course you can't make them all. So I have to think about who's the customer, what do they want, what do we already have that the new design needs to fit in with, what colors work, and that's a long process, but it's all about refining and coming to a decision about the best design for where we are at right now.
For Invade's visit, she has shown a tangible instance of her design endeavors. Whilst honoring a centuries-long heritage, Heather integrates chic and contemporary patterns and tones into her design aesthetics.
So what's your signature design style?
Well, I think at a glance you can see it's very colorful, very simple, and a lot of pattern. And all of that comes from inspiration from three things. I'm very inspired by the mid-century optimism from the design from the 1950s, 60s and 70s, that optimistic spirit. I'm also inspired by the simplicity of Scandinavian design, very clean, clear, crisp design. And then the third thing is an inspiration from Africa, from African chic. And so I think if I had to put it into a word, I would call it Afro-Scandi.
What's one thing that you're proud of as a textile designer? Be it your design or be it yourself as a brand as well.
Can I say two things? Yeah. One of them is the long relationship we've had with one of our biggest stockists in the USA. They've started stocking in 2008 when we were a tiny, tiny brand and continue to stock us, which says to me that we are a brand worth backing for that length of time and with that caliber of stockist. The other thing that I'm very proud of is that the designs we create and send out into the world become part of people's lives, that they add joy to people's homes, that they add to people's stories, and they help people tell the story of themselves. And that's amazing because I have no control over that.
Yeah.
It just goes out into the world and makes people happy. Yeah. Because one of the things we love to say here is that color makes us feel good, but pattern makes us happy. And I can demonstrate that for you right now if you want to. Okay. Watch this. Ooh. Okay, so here's our best-selling print, the flower fields, on a jacket and on a hat. Let's see if it makes you happy.
Well, it does. How does it look?
Makes me happy too.
Well, thank you so much for making our time to see us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Situated in the second oldest wine farm in South Africa, the Goatshed Restaurant was primarily an old barn converted to a restaurant, which offered the space an unapologetic permission to be styled in all the hand-me-down bits and pieces. There is so much to look at. Antique and modern, wood, metal, nature, food, all work in harmony, and the owner, Charles, is very proud of the work that has gone into this design.
Charles, thank you so much for welcoming me to your restaurant. It looks stunning. It looks amazing. I mean, thank you.
Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure having you here.
Great. There's a lot of agricultural element to whatever that has been created. What ambience does it add to the space?
Well, I think you realize when you walk into the space is different than walking into a city restaurant. We are farmers, and it is a restaurant on a farm, and we try and depict that. We also are quite quirky by nature and playful. And if you look around with the goat, we use it as playful element into the thing. We don't take ourselves too seriously and want people to be relaxed when they walk in and just interact in the space in a meaningful way.
I mean, it's a very stunning place and we love it. Thank you so much for the invite.
Thank you for coming to visit us.
Thank you.
The interior is a fusion and eclectic mix of fabrics, furniture, and lights. Interior designer Renee has pulled a masterpiece, keeping the original ambience of the barn-like charm.
Renee, thank you so much once again for welcoming me into Fairview. So Renee, you're seen to be an unexpected river and of course an intentional interior designer. Yes. What elements in you do you see that actually make you say that?
I am not one to conform to a mainstream, and when I drill down into personal development, I drill down deeply. When I drill down into a brand's IP, I extract every ounce of it until I hit the sweet spot. So I'm not a cut and paste type of person at the coffee myself sometimes, but I can't help myself.
The first brief was to light it up. How did you feel and how were you able to achieve light, in bringing that brief together?
So my relationship with Charles Back goes back about, no pun intended, the double backs, 15 to 18 years. And the restaurant literally was just repurposed old furniture that they brought in from other sheds to start up the space as a restaurant. And it was about the end of last year that he called me in and he said, can you do something to freshen this up? And at that stage, the most difficult part of the space was there's no natural light here. And how to bring personality to the space, because Fairview is a very quirky brand. And the idea of celebrating the space for what it is, the goat shed, was the departure for coming up with a concept.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, and I think you've been able to do a good work.
Thank you.
One of your mantras is actually old never gets old. I mean, you love that. You love that a lot.
Yes.
Can you tell me how much of old and refurbished furniture that was used in obviously in renovating this restaurant?
Sure. I can almost say every touch point except for the reception counter that we designed, but then we repurposed it by giving it a grape color. Everything is a repurposed element of heritage or antique, or even the logs that we had artisan carve for us. This is a 1960s bird bath circa that we put a tabletop onto. And the reason why it works so well within this brand, it doesn't necessarily always apply to all brands, but the reason why it works so well here is because Fairview is quirky and everything is an artisanal experience. It's it's a farm to table experience, and that's what we wanted to carry through the experience of the space.
That's beautiful, and it stands strong and of course very high outside.
Yes.
Now, talking about goats, there's a concept of graphics here at Fairview.
Yes.
The working goats and the famous goats. I mean, these are the famous goats, but
Yes.
explain that concept to us.
Because the idea was to make the goats the hero ingredient in the restaurant, the idea was unpacked, and it started with these very naive, like cut and paste models. That's how a designer works. You have to have an idea and an inspiration, and then that has to be translated into some form of communication to the graphic designer, because it's not just a cut and paste model that I follow, as I've said at the beginning. These are the famous goats, because every operation or every dish has a hero ingredient. So hence the famous goats. And then we've got the working goats. And the working goats are painted all across the wall by also graphic design developed. Then it was given over to an artist and she had to hand paint them onto the walls, which I think she did an incredibly good job of. And they're the working goats. So they've got the vegetable stacks and the fruit stacks on their heads, and they carry the food from the restaurant into the space. Not all consumers will understand that story, but as a designer, when you've got that kind of intentional drive into the IP, it gets experienced, not necessarily on such a level of cerebral understanding, but that infusion is what we wanted to bring into the restaurant, that infuses itself into the food. And the beauty of all these goats is this can be used as a wine label. The stacks can be used successfully within the menus, and it can straddle so many touch points within the brand, which makes it recognizable.
So these elements were actually used to be able to differentiate the food, the wines, and of course, the things used here in the farm generally.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Our story of interior and architecture blends countryside and contemporary designs, creating a vibrant landscape.
Thanks for watching, and of course, I'll see you next time. Don't forget to keep embracing the beauty of design.